all of those of us who live in Babylon have been given a blessing that's actually a curse, and a curse that's actually a blessing. The blessing that's actually a curse is the almost unlimited prosperity and access to entertainment and food and clothing and shelter and warmth. And almost every one of our needs are met, even if we have to go to work every day, even if we're in debt. We live in a state of access to almost anything. And the reason that's a curse is because we are full. We have no room left for God. In the Beatitudes, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled with the Holy Ghost." Well, if you are already full, there is no hungering and thirsting. And that's the situation we live with in Babylon. We are all full. We are full time-wise. We are full of food. We're full of entertainment. We're full of things to do. And so really God gets the leftovers from us. He might get a few hours on Sunday. But if we were really hungry and thirsting, in the physical world, hungering and thirsting, that happens not only on a daily basis, but multiple times a day. And maybe this is another one of those symbols that we ought to pay attention to. Like I said in the video, a couple videos ago, where the cadence of us dying and being born again needs to be daily. There's a reason we go to sleep and sleep every night and wake up every morning, is because the daily cadence is the cadence that we have to have in coming back and seeking after God. And that is the same as being filled and hungering and thirsting after the things of God. In the Beatitudes, Jesus says that is the key. Hungering and thirsting after righteousness is the key to being filled with the Spirit. And being filled with the Spirit is the same thing as being born again spiritually. So the real big key to understanding how to be born again is in the Sermon on the Mount. If you read 3 Nephi chapter 12, Jesus, in the first couple of verses, is talking about how to be baptized with fire and with the Holy Ghost, which is what we're all seeking after. And he leads into that. And it's interesting, he talks about those who are poor in spirit who come unto me. He is talking about those who are looking to have to be born again, to have their poor spirit or their empty spirit or their dark spirit changed into something that is full of light. Blessed are the poor in spirit who come unto me, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That's how you enter into the gate of the kingdom of heaven, is by recognizing your poor spirit and coming to God and asking him to change it. And he says some other interesting things there. He says, blessed are the meek, blessed are those who hunger and thirst, blessed are those who are persecuted for my name's sake. And these sound like a negative, but they're actually blessings. So this is the curse that's actually a blessing. When we realize the darkness of Babylon, when we realize the negativity and the vanity and the lack of satisfaction, of lasting satisfaction that's in Babylon, that is the curse that is actually a blessing. So the darkness should cause us to hunger and thirst after God, after the things of God. We really do live in this upside down world where the things of God cannot be seen, and the things of the world look ultra appealing. Babylon is kind of it's like a buffet where you have just endless access to everything that you want. We are so full of the things of the world, and we have access to everything that we want. And so it's like being at a buffet and filling yourself ultra full, and then somebody bringing another plate of food to you. And thank God. Think if God brought you something, another plate of food, when you're already stuffed. You've had your salad, you've had your meal, you've had your desserts, and then you went back for more desserts, and then God brings you a plate of something that would otherwise be super desirable. Well, in Babylon, that's the state that we're in. We are so full of the crap of Babylon that when God comes along and has something for us, it's repulsive. And that's the state of Babylon. Now, if you can create a little bit of space, space is required for hungering and thirsting. If you are not at least a little bit empty, there is no space for God. There is no space for hungering and thirsting. It reminds me of the story of the Zoramites who kicked their poor people out from among them, and the poor among them were really kind of bummed that they couldn't go to church on Sunday, and they felt like they had been probably kept from salvation. They said, we can't even worship God because they kicked us out of the synagogues. What are we supposed to do? Now, Alma could have been really ticked at the rich Zoramites who weren't letting the poor people in, but instead he was really happy, and he said, I'm really glad you've been kicked out, because do you really think that your synagogue is the only place that you can worship? And do you really think that you're only supposed to worship one time a week? And so what had happened is these poor Zoramites had recognized, and they had this empty space within them, and they realized that they were empty. They had actually been persecuted by the other Zoramites, and because of that persecution, they had this space that could be filled by God. And Alma realized them, and he talked to them about planting a seed in their heart. In that empty space, he said, plant a seed and nourish it and see what it grows up to. And if you nourish it, then you're going to realize how actually desirable that is. And if you don't plant it, or if you plant it and then don't nourish it, then that's your own problem. But really, having the emptiness, having the darkness, having the space where you can feel this emptiness creates a place for God. In order to get to God in Babylon, we have to actually pull the things of Babylon out from us so that we can create a space for God to fill that in. And that's why in the Beatitudes we have, blessed are those that hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled with the Holy Ghost. Blessed are those who feel the emptiness and they feel their desperation for God. You're blessed in that state. You're blessed in a state where you're mourning, where you're meek, where you're persecuted, where you're poor in spirit. And when you recognize that, you are blessed, because then and only then can you be filled with something from God.